This video is going to be another look at the Klint Kubiak offense as it appeared in 2024 with the New Orleans Saints, his 1 year as offensive coordinator there. I'm going to separate this into two parts. Basically, you're going to have concepts in the beginning, run and pass concepts that Kubiak showed a lot in New Orleans, and we're going to specifically show the film from the Saints, and then possessions and how I think he's a sequential play caller at times. I don't mean all the time, but Kubiak seems to be a guy who will make you stop something defensively before going away from it. And I can tell you from being a Ravens fan, there's a number of times where we've complained about our offensive coordinators the last 4 or 5 years, be it Greg Roman or Todd Monken, going away from something that was working before the defense really stopped it. And then finally, I'll take a look at some of the data from his time as the Saints offensive coordinator in 2024. Really, from a film standpoint, going to focus on weeks 1 through 6 before they just had catastrophic injuries to multiple positions on the offensive side. So weeks 7 through 12 or 7 through 11 are really omitted from what I'm talking about. And in fact, I didn't watch a ton of that film. So the first thing we'll do is take a look at some of the concepts that I find interesting and are revealing in terms of what Kubiak might do to draw on the skills of Sam Darnold. He plays very well under center, if you ask me. Not that he can't operate out of the shotgun, right? There was a lot of film of him doing so in Minnesota in 2024, but I think Darnold is a really good play action quarterback. And the first play that I'm going to show you here is a 7-step drop from under center. And you'll be able to count the steps to kind of confirm that. But really, the reality is a lot of teams in the NFL don't use 7-step drop a whole lot. So this is a 12 or 21 personnel grouping. And when you get a look at the data later from Sumer Sports, man, there is just so many personnel groups that Kubiak used in New Orleans. It's a play action with a little dig to Chris Olave down the bottom side of the screen. You can see motion in the running back out to create an empty set. First of all, who runs 7-step drop under center in the NFL these days? Not a lot of teams, all right? And then who does so from an empty standpoint? No one that I have seen. So this play stuck out like a sore thumb for me. I think it's interesting. It almost kind of run and shoot-esque, except run and shoot was more 3-step and 5-step drop. Feel free to count the steps if you would. If you wish, you can see what's happening. You're getting the expansion of the inside linebacker, creating that opening in the middle of the field. And Carr from the 7-step drop position is able to get his body oriented, that plant foot ready to throw, shoulder pointed at the target. And that's what I think Sam Darnold is really good at doing, in my opinion. I think it's one of the things that you guys in Seattle are going to see a whole lot of when you're under center and the offensive line is able to create a consistent running lanes, is this under center play action concepts that really, I think, draw on creating not just run pass conflict, but also, as you guys have heard me refer to in previous videos, horizontal conflict as well. I think the dig route to Olave you saw there is a big part of what Kubiak likes to use on play action. I don't know how often the dig is run out of the shotgun. You know, I don't have enough time in my day, nor am I expert enough to be able to say, okay, they run the dig 24% of the time under center, but only 8% of the time in the shotgun. There are patterns like that emerge if you watch offensive teams enough. I have not watched enough Kubiak offense to do so. I wouldn't feel confident saying that, but it's something I speculate about, that you don't see the dig route as often out of the shotgun just from the limited film that I have watched. And when I say limited, I'm talking about weeks 1 through 6 from 2024, about 5 games from San Francisco of 2023 as well. So in any case, it showed up in that dig route showed up in New Orleans a lot last year, and it was certainly a big part of what the 49ers did in 2023. And Sam Darnold hit it a lot from under center with Minnesota last year. He's very comfortable throwing from under center as well. There's differential timing under center and in the shotgun, which I kind of talked about in one of my other film study videos. If you haven't checked those out, feel free to do so. Either pause now and go do so, or do so after checking this one out. So this is a 1st and 10. This is actually first play of the season against the Panthers. I love this concept. You're lining up trips to the field, and then the running back set to that side as well. And in fact, it ends up looking like a stack trips. Really, it's bunch. Taysom Hill motioning into the boundary. So you've got this very real possibility of a potential RPO or screen out here to the field side. Carr, not as big of a run threat. Obviously, Jadeveon Clowney is trying to chase this down from the backside, but it's the outside zone. You know, people call it whatever they want. I just say sweep path, because sometimes it's, quote, wide zone, Sometimes it's outside zone. From our standpoint, and even me as a person who tries to analyze the game, who the hell cares, right? It's really just a sweep path for the running back, and all of these guys from an offensive line standpoint are working towards the boundary. Now, getting back to one of the foundational things that I've been talking about with Kubiak's offense, horizontal conflict, that really goes back to the Shanahan system, all right? Kubiak carries that with him, if you ask me. Whether Darnold is in or Milrow, for me, I would love to see this be a Milrow play, meaning bunch with the back to the field and then run some type of zone read with the horizontal threat of the running back following the motion man, in this case, Taysom Hill. That to me looks like a great setup or great way to use Jalen Milrow, possibly keeping the football to the field out of the shotgun. But it's a foundational play, and when I say that he calls things in a sequential manner, you'll see later on in that same game against Carolina that he used the same exact concept pretty much from the same setup. I think he likes to make everything look similar, meaning the run and the pass concepts are from the same platform, the same formation. If you're not familiar with that term, formation is the alignment of the offense, where they're standing pre-snap. I'll talk about that a lot in my videos, probably too much for some of you. My apologies for that. Every play call isn't built on the previous one, don't get me wrong, but I believe that he is one of the offensive coordinators who's got things like a checklist. Almost reminds me of Ben Johnson, meaning going to line up in something in the first 6 or 8 plays of the game, see how you align to it, and then check off my box to confirm what I suspected for later on in the game at a place and time of my choosing as the play caller, or exit out or don't put anything in there at all, meaning it's not confirmed to me the look you're giving us, and therefore my second or even third play from that formation, from that platform, may or may not be available. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. I think that it's just a great offensive, it's a great way to operate as an offense, number one. Number two, whether you're under center or in the shotgun, you've got this kind of merging of old school concepts and new school flavor, if you will. So once again, we've got motion with the receiver from the top to the bottom for us, right to left for the offense, and then the run action off of it, in this case to Kamara once again. So horizontal conflict, right? Potentially you could give it to the guy in motion or give it to the running back, which is what Carr does here. Kamara gets a huge lane to the right-hand side of the offensive line, which is the same place we saw them run essentially a similar concept on the first play. We will give you the end zone angle of this one. I'm trying to give you both angles of these. I went back and cut these up a couple of weeks ago and finally was able to record it in pieces. So there's the offensive line movement, very similar to what we're talking about on the previous play that I showed you. Not the previous play in terms of this game. So the tight end on the backside here, the same side of the running back, into the boundary. Interesting. So he's working up to the defensive tackle. There's no inside linebacker to go get. And you can see that that's the block that really, I think it's Fuaga, that the tight end, him and Foster Moreau, are able to move that defensive tackle. And you got a great job by the interior guys here, getting this thing stretched horizontally, forcing the defense to kind of pick their poison. Do you want to deal with the sweep? Do you want to deal with the quarterback on the keep, potential keep, or an RPO? The concepts are the same. The elements, I should say, are the same. Horizontal conflict created, and then also, getting the defense to move side to side, either with motion or post-snap, the quarterback and the running back flowing in the same direction, potentially a handoff, with the play action or boot threat off of it. I would say there's some similarities as well to the Sean McVay system with the Rams, in that he likes to threaten the sweep, the jet sweep under center a lot. And there's a couple of things here on this next play that I want to try to link to a Sean McVay offense. I did a huge breakdown on the Rams last year in the offseason. If you're at all interested, feel free to check it out. I'll link it up here at some point during the video and or in the description. There's a lot going on here that I would say is similar to McVay. So the jet motion across, and then check out how these two tight ends block this on the downside of the screen. Now, 52 kicks the shit out of this tight end. So, it's not a great job of the block here necessarily, but it's the way they're getting this done. It's a design cutback, if you ask me, because they're basically what we would call jilling it, and I will give you the end zone angle so you can see it. Tight end stepping out to the edge defender. Let me switch colors. And then the outside tight end inserting here, but he's going to go and try to block this safety nickel defender and get him moving in that direction. He's going to try to seal him to that side. Hopefully I said it in a way that makes sense. When you get the end zone angle, you'll get a better idea of it. You can see that tight end working here, and he's trying to get to that safety, number 13, seal him off so that Kamara can cut off of this wall that's created by, again, what I would call, or what we would call, a Jill ISO concept, but it's on the back side of the run scheme. So as you get the motion through here, you can see that the jet sweep, in my opinion, has elicited one of the inside linebackers who spot shadowed on the right, kicking out to an edge defender position, basically creating a 5-1. The motion pulls the nickel defender into the box, really has created a 5-2 at this point, right? I would say this guy's an inside linebacker, 3 interior D tackles, outside linebacker, and then a nickel slash safety. So we can still refer to it as a 5-2 or 3-4 if you wish. Let's check out the blocking scheme on the left-hand side. I'll let it flow through multiple times. You can see the tight end, Moreau, stepping out to the edge defender and really taking a loss here. Even though the edge defender doesn't make the tackle, he gets involved in the play, kind of making Kamara spin. And then 83 inserting into the formation. Now, the way McVay does this is a little different. This is oftentimes a wide receiver, right? Like a Puka Nacua or someone like that, to go get a nickel safety. Because when they go 11 personnel so much like Sean McVay does, they understand that's going to be a nickel safety. But you can see how they've created this horizontal conflict with the jet motion, and then the run with the quarterback turning to that side. So he's reverse pivoting. So reverse pivot means his chest is pointed away from where he makes the handoff. Think basically he's turning counterclockwise to hand the ball off here. Make it look like Kamara is going in this direction. I would say this is a design cutback to cut off of this tight end's block, or at least that's built into the play. When I say that it's very Rams-esque, that's what I mean. McVay builds those things into the backside of the run concept. It's not that other people don't do so, but that's a simple concept. And for the offensive line to be improved this year, we hope for Seattle, it'll be a different season, if you ask me, from the way that the offense is structured and from the manner in which games flow out. Basically, remember so many times where the offense had extreme difficulty moving the football and being consistent from an offensive line standpoint early in games, really destroyed the flow of the offense for long periods of time. Again, I'm focusing this video on New Orleans' first 5 or 6 games of the year. If you don't know, they started 2-0 last year, scored a ton of points against some bad defenses. Also had close losses to the Eagles, the Falcons, and I think they lost by 12 or 13 to the Chiefs. But the O-line looked better earlier in the season. Does Kubiak's system bring improvement just in and of itself? Possibly. Maybe a 5 to 7% boost. The roster acquisitions, the additions on the offensive line, Gray Zabel as a first-round pick, and then Josh Jones is a veteran who can play multiple spots on the O-line. I'm going to show film from one game at a time, here the Panthers film, and then the Cowboys in a moment, to display the sequential manner that Kubiak calls plays. Basically, he'll come back to things that work. And like I said, that sounds like common sense, but a lot of NFL offensive coordinators have so many plays listed on their play sheet that they kind of don't come back to things. They leave them alone, even though the defense hasn't stopped it yet. So this is going to be, I think, on a third possession, very similar, a second possession, excuse me, very similar to the first play that I showed you, which was the first shotgun run play that I showed you, which was bunch with the running back to the field, and then the run concept going back into the boundary. Well, we've got the ball here in the middle of the field, but we do have the running back, tight end on the same side of the field as 2 receivers. So I would call this trips A, whereas the first run play that I showed you was bunch A. And the run concept going back away from that strong side. It's possible that we do have a hold here, don't get me wrong. But a lot of things to like down here to the bottom side, you've got the X receiver going to go get, essentially seal the safety. And since we presume they're playing man to the backside, that corner is going with them. So you're really getting a 2-for-1, meaning the block occurs and the man defender, the man corner on the X receiver. Kamara turns the corner for a big gain. Like I said, it's very possible that we could have had a hold called on the left tackle here. One more time for this one. It's a very similar setup, if you ask me. Almost a merging of 2 of the run concepts that I've showed you. So this stretch or sweep path to the left, the running back, potential for Carr or the quarterback to keep it to the field, to the trip side, and then Moreau trying to work in this direction, recognizes that the edge defender is going with him, so he's going to divert his attention to that edge defender. Again, it's Clowney. Moreau kind of grabs as well. This horizontal conflict is going to be something I talk about a ton in this offense. I think that's what Kubiak like. It's what a lot of offensive coordinators like to do. Don't get me wrong. Along with the run-pass conflict, it's just something that I see when I watch the film, and you're welcome to describe it in another manner if you wish. So now I want to talk about possessions and how I think he sets up play calls in a really beautiful manner, if you ask me. So let's take a look at film from against the Cowboys, and we're going to look at basically two-back stuff. Now, one of these plays in here is going to be a one-back configuration, but it'll be the same players on the field. So Taysom Hill is the fullback here, and they're running essentially a toss zone concept to the field. Dallas is able to get a nice tackle for loss there from Micah Parsons, or just beyond the line of scrimmage. So this, I've actually moved forward here. I mixed up the order of a couple of the plays, but this is the fourth play of the possession, and then the third play will be next. Don't ask me how that happened, but you can see it's another I-back situation, two backs in the backfield, tight end same side. Similar run concept, different running back in the game. Now Taysom Hill, instead of being the fullback, is the tailback. Kind of ridiculous how often they moved him around. I don't anticipate, Kubiak doing that. But the reason why I want to show this one and kind of refer to it again 2 or 3 plays from now is you have this what I would call kind of lock concept on the backside. Oftentimes when you're getting the zone concept to one side, it's a lead by the fullback as well here. All the offensive line are working in one direction, and you leave this backside defensive end unblocked. That's not the case here. Again, we would call this a lock, meaning you're leaving the backside defensive end for the tackle, and now that kind of makes this gap larger. The inside linebacker, in this case, fills it, which is really nice. It works out really nicely for the Cowboys. But at times, you want to run the boot off of this. And I think that's why Kubiak and those guys do this at times. I haven't exactly figured out why they do this, to be honest with you. Meaning why they would adjust during the game and block the backside D end versus leaving him unblocked and letting this tackle work up to the inside linebacker. On some of the boot stuff, it really makes sense to me because that inside linebacker is put in extreme conflict. Like I said, I will kind of delve back into an examination of that in a couple of plays on a touchdown run by Alvin Kamara. So this is going backwards in time. Like I said, this is the second play of the first possession. I don't know how the order got mixed up there, so my apologies. It was after the first initial run that I showed you, a toss play that I mistakenly said was a TFL by Micah Parsons. It's a 2nd and 9, and the reverse action, the way they get this done, really cool. A lot of teams utilize this structure with the guard and then the fullback. There is a little bit of a predictability nature with the offset fullback being away from the tight end and this tighter alignment of the Z receiver. When you get the end zone angle, I'll talk about that a little bit more. It doesn't end up going for much. I don't think Taysom Hill does a really great job out there leading at all. Kind of should get to the corner. So the slight indicators that you've got here is an offset fullback, and then also really tightly aligned Z, number 22. Check out the guard. So the guard's going to pull and make it look like he's going in the direction that Kamara is going. See the counter steps that Kamara gives, and also, Taysom Hill gives. And I want to refer to this play here in a moment when I say that they make everything look similar. There's a play that I'm going to show in a moment called F counter. Some people will call it reverse power, where that's what you get, and that's the exact same steps that the guard and Taysom Hill are giving on the snap here, and Kamara as well, I should add. And except there's a reverse off of it with Taysom Hill pivoting and going back to the field. Like I said, I don't think he did a really great job of leading there, but when I said earlier that Kubiak tries to make everything look the same, that's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit here to a play against the Falcons. I think this is from week 2, and you got pretty much the exact same setup. The only difference is, we have an extra additional tight end here, but you got the fullback set up to the left. Watch this guard pull and kick, and then the fullback lead. Very similar to the exact same steps that Taysom Hill used on that reverse. So when I say that everything, they try to get everything to look the same, this is what I mean. The guard is pulling, the fullback is leading, but on the previous play that I just showed you, the fullback in the case of Taysom Hill stepped here for a moment and then reversed field. So there's just a lot of integration, if you ask me, between making things look the same, especially under center. If you ask me, there's the blocking scheme. Some would call it reverse power. I used to call it reverse power years ago. Really, it's just F counter, if you ask me, with the guard pulling and kicking the edge defender, and then the fullback leading the way. The point is, I think Kubiak's offense does a really nice job of making multiple concepts, 2 or 3 plays, look very similar for the first second and a half to 2 seconds. You're welcome to let me know what you think of that thought after I've broken down those 2 plays, different plays, mind you. Keep in mind that they have the same backfield setup. The offset I with the reverse on the first one, and then the F counter play on the second one. My apologies for having the wrong order of some of the plays. Essentially, I think Kubiak understands how he has to structure his offense to make things look similar for the defensive, for the quality of defensive staffs he's going to be going against. Right? You can't make every play look unique, because then it becomes very predictable and easy for teams to pick up on the pattern. Another element I think I have to mention is him staying in the NFC. That dynamic is interesting to me. It's not just that he worked with Darnold in 2023 in San Francisco, but since 2019, he's been in the NFC. He spent 3 years in Minnesota, I think, starting in 2019. Actually, there was a year in 2022 where he was in Denver, and I think he maybe took over the play calling duties like midseason. Moved to San Francisco in 2023, and then New Orleans last year. In short, he's got a lot of experience against NFC teams and coaches, number one. And number two, trying to make everything look the same. I think that really just fits in line with the Shanahan system and even with the stuff that Sean McVay runs with the Rams. This is a foundational pass play here. Clearly on this jet motion, tight end's not going to get a handoff on a sweep. It's going to be very rarely integrated anyway. The play action is to draw the inside linebackers up, and you can see that that is achieved. And then you have, you guessed it, a dig from Olave left to right, big gain against the Cowboys. 7-step drop for Derek Carr from an under center standpoint. I think this is what Darnold does very well. Play action, 5-step drop, 7-step drop, kick back there on that back foot, and use that momentum to push into your throw against a receiver that you can see is open. Also, max protect on this play action pass and another one that I'm going to show you in a moment. That purple line, which looks kind of haphazard, my apologies, is Kamara after the play fake, kind of veering back against the grain, possibly because he's reading the leverage of this defender, but possibly just built into the actual concept. So motion by Foster Moreau. The tight end chip is a pass off. So this tight end is chipping the edge defender. I think it's Micah Parsons first, and then Moreau will take him over. So you can utilize the rest of the offensive linemen for everything else in this direction, along with Kamara, who's not the target of the play. The big completion to Olave on another dig route. You see that dig route a lot. I do have probably 8 or 10 49ers pass plays saved up from an under center standpoint. Maybe I'll try to get those in another video. Probably going to have to move away from long production of video for about a week, going on vacation with my family. One thing I do want to mention before moving on to the final set of plays is some of the data from New Orleans last year. Probably should have introduced this a little earlier. This is from a website called Sumer Sports, and I should have put the link up here on the screen, but I'll try to provide that in the description. They do great stuff. They have fantastic data that you can go look at. And just so you know, it starts on this is all from New Orleans 2024. I just cut the New Orleans Saints name off the left-hand side of the graphic. The personnel usage, pretty balanced between 11 and 12. 341 plays, 310 plays from 11 to 12. 21 personnel as well. That's a lot of usage of either 2 tight ends or 2 running backs. meaning the second highest usage for the Saints in 2024 was 12 personnel, 310 plays, or 30% of the time. And the third highest personnel group usage was 21 personnel, 16% of the time, or 166 plays. That's significant if you ask me. I'm not sure that Seattle was going to match those numbers. It certainly seems like it. Look, you do have a lot of depth there at receiver. I'm not saying they can't go with 3 receiver sets. They clearly will be an 11 personnel often. Kubiak, was an 11 personnel 33% of the time. You drafted Torrey Horton, who I know has an injury. Cooper Kupp, JSN, MVS is an experienced guy. I actually think more highly of MVS than a lot of other people probably do. I know he's had drop issues throughout his career, and those are real, but he's also made big plays in 2 of the Chiefs' Super Bowl runs, particularly their second AFC Championship game matchup against the Bengals. Really, I don't know if they win that matchup. If they win that game, if he's not really absolutely destroying Mike Hilton, who at that time was one of the best nickel defenders in the league. So the EPA, I don't really delve into those things a ton. I do think it's notable that out of 12 personnel and 13 personnel, you have some variance between negative 7 tenths and then 9 tenths in the positive direction. Uncharted, I'm not sure what that is. I can guess that maybe that's 2 extra offensive linemen on the field, but I could be wrong. In any case, that's data that you can go access if you wish, or go find if you wish on Kubiak's offense, how much of usage he had from each personnel group. I don't really go into the EPA run, EPA pass stuff a ton, but out of 13 personnel, it's quite notable that you can see EPA rush is 0.39, fourth ranked in the league from a usage standpoint, and 12th ranked in the league from an EPA standpoint. So I do want to make one more point about the dig route before moving on here to the last play that I'll show. I think that's a MVS and Torrey Horton route. Those guys have long speed, big body receivers, can run, maybe not run away from people consistently, but they can run across the field from one side to the other. And JSN and Cooper Kupp are going to be a big aspect of what gets accomplished here on the offensive side, but they don't really necessarily need those design play action type routes, meaning JSN and Kupp. The other guys, Horton and MVS, quite honestly, they might. And I think the familiarity with this division that Kubiak has is going to really give the Seahawks an advantage, an early advantage, attacking some of the coverage dynamics and some of the coverages that they see, because he's so familiar with this division. Last play that I want to show is a lead zone concept. Compare it to that one that I referred to as a lock call. You can see this time the defensive end is unblocked, and you've got, again, horizontal conflict being created. When I say horizontal conflict created, you've got full flow, which is fullback, tailback in one direction, and then quarterback possibly booting out in the other direction. Horizontal conflict, meaning they could get the run play to the right side, or the quarterback booting to the left side to throw in that direction. They have not blocked the defensive end, so as opposed to the previous play that I showed you where the tackle sealed or locked on the backside, now he's working up to the second level. Doesn't really impact the play here, to be honest with you, other than sealing off that backside inside linebacker. Kamara is able to power into the end zone. These are some of the concepts that I thought were notable in my study of Kubiak's offense last year with the Saints. I have about 6 other plays that I'll separate into a different video. These are they would be screens, creative usage plays. Taysom Hill will not be the sole focus there, but he'll be a part of it. And then also, I guess what you might call trick plays and execution. There is a part there that reminds me a little bit of Ben Johnson with the Detroit Lions, a guy who has probably more trick plays ready to go each week than really any other NFL team that I've been able to cover or pay attention to in the last couple of years. You're welcome to let me know if there may or actually is another offensive staff that utilizes trick plays as much as Ben Johnson did. I don't think Kubiak gets to that depth with trick plays, but there were certainly some creative usage plays that stuck out to me. I wanted to put it in a standalone video. At this point, my content has either become in the 25 to 30 minute range, like this one, or by design in the 2-minute range, which is when I'm trying to just present one concept and explain it, to the best of my knowledge for football fans who may be looking for that type of content that will be somewhat informative about certain terms and why things are referred to in that way. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section. I know I consistently refer to horizontal conflict, and hopefully it's not um, annoying to hear that phrase used so often, but I just see it those markers so often, and it really reminds me of the Shanahan system that was used in Denver to win 2 Super Bowls with Terrell Davis and John Elway later in his career. You could really see the horizontal conflict created with the outside zone stretch action to one side and the quarterback boot to the other. Sam Darnold doesn't offer the same athleticism as John Elway, certainly not Jalen Milroe, but that system's been in place for years, and I think Klint Kubiak, almost called him Gary earlier. Klint Kubiak has done a really nice job of merging kind of old school Shanahan concepts with some new school flavor stuff, and that'll really be kind of part of the focus for the third video that I'll do. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments section. And then finally, if you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this film study look at Kubiak's offense, albeit one where I'm projecting what I think he'll do in Seattle, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.